It's time for a nice hot cup of book drama. Book drama! I've got 2 items of absolute nonsense related to children's literature for you this week. And the first one is a follow-up to something that happened back in September. The city of Vancouver allowed Stanley Park to be rented out by a company that was putting on the Harry Potter Forbidden Forest experience. This should have been totally unremarkable. Light shows like this are totally common in the autumn and winter. But of course, the usual crowd of extreme activists from the rainbow flag community decided to totally freak out about it. They got really upset at the Vancouver Park Board, and they had an emergency meeting so that they could discuss the damage to the TGD2S community. If you keep changing the acronym, people like me can't keep up. We don't want to be mean to anybody, but try to meet us normies halfway. Pick something that's short enough that we can remember it and stick with it. So they had their emergency meeting, and one of the activists involved tweeted, "Last night, Park Board did the right thing. Apologized to TGD2S community after emotional discussion. Shared some tears. Disavowed JKR.
We have found the witch, may we burn her?
Will undertake concrete actions to rebuild trust." I said this last time I addressed J.K. Rowling related book drama, and it's that there is this really tiny group of activists that has got it in their head that if they're just loud enough, they can drown out the rest of their own community and bully the entire rest of the population into doing what they want. They use emotional blackmail, they scream, they cry, they whine. And then, when they don't get their way, they just build that into their grievance narrative.
Well, we did do the nose.
The nose?
And the hat. But she's a witch!
People are over this. They're done with it, and it's backfiring. It's actually making people lose empathy for the very group that these activists claim to be trying to help. In response to this dramatic Parks Board meeting, J.K. Rowling tweeted, "To be honest, I didn't even know Vancouver Parks and Recreations had avowed me, so the disavowal hasn't been much of a blow. Next time, send me a certificate of avowal, wait until I've proudly framed it, hung it over my PC and taken a selfie with it, then revoke it." Whether you love, hate, or don't care about J.K. Rowling, one thing you need to remember when speaking about her is that she's funny, she's smart, and she's almost certainly a better writer than you. So you're gonna have to bring your top game if you actually want to defeat her in a battle of words. The activists had wanted the whole event to be canceled because for some reason a Harry Potter themed walkthrough in a public park that you have to buy tickets to get into was harmful to the 2DLSD, whatever that acronym was, the rainbow flag community. But the event wasn't canceled because this is a big business operation. Contracts have been signed, and the Parks Board couldn't just rescind what was a very, very expensive operation just because a group of activists were all upset about it. So the reason I waited to talk about this until now is the event is finally open. So what I wanted to see was, did the broader community in Vancouver agree with these activists? Oh, look at that. It's doing great, and the tickets are selling out pretty fast. A lot of people are going to go to this event and have a great time, and if some people are upset about it, that doesn't appear to be factoring into anyone's decision about buying a ticket. As I've mentioned before, you're allowed to feel however you want about J.K. Rowling. You can love her. You can hate her. You could not care at all. But nobody's allowed to tell you how to feel about her writing or how you're allowed to spend your own money to have fun. I really think every time one of these activist groups has a temper tantrum, they're just generating more sympathy for J.K. Rowling and making people less likely to sympathize with the activist cause.
He's a fair cop.
My other bit of book drama has to do with the TV show Spitting Image and its raunchy, foul-mouthed parody of Paddington Bear.
The following content is not suitable for children.
Spitting Image is a rude puppet show for grown-ups that ran on Britain's ITV network from 1984 to 1996 and was recently revived on YouTube. It sits in the same category as a show like South Park, treating any public figure as a target for mockery and acting as an ongoing test of the right to free speech.
That's right, muchachos.
The leaders of each of Britain's major political parties, Conservative, Labour, and Reform, are all recurring figures on the revived show, as is Donald Trump.
Mamalado!
The sketches are framed as part of a podcast hosted by Prince Harry and Paddington Bear.
I'm from Peru, muchachos.
Pads is a parody version of the beloved bear from the children's books written by Michael Bond, which were then adapted by Studio Canal Plus into the film series. However, his inclusion on the show has led to a brutal copyright crackdown by Canal Plus and the Bond estate, who claim that his depiction infringes on the intellectual property rights that they have over Britain's most profitable bear.
Ay, 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 ay!
Yup, sounds awful.
Mockery of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle is perfectly acceptable to Brits, but the show's portrayal of the mild-mannered bear caused consternation in some quarters. The portrayal of Paddington on Spitting Image was a wild-eyed, less-than-sober party animal who had a very stereotypical Latino accent.
Santa Maria del Edificato!
Frank Skinner wrote in The Observer that the show is at its funniest when skewering those who deserve it, but that there was nothing funny about lampooning Paddington, a totally inoffensive and deeply loved character. Paddington is nearly an official symbol of the country, having famously dined with the late Queen on marmalade sandwiches in a short film made for her Platinum Jubilee, and lately becoming the best friend of the Japanese ambassador to the United Kingdom. I have plans to talk about this wonderful friendship between a literary character and an ambassador in the future because it's so wholesome. But still, even if some people found it odd to include a fictional bear in a cast of characters that normally includes public figures who are real people, nobody would deny that Britain has a long tradition of parody, and that whether or not you found the portrayal tasteful, the show should have a right to do it. Right? When Canal Plus and the Michael Bond estate filed a complaint with the High Court, they claimed that the ratty-looking, foul-mouthed puppet on Spitting Image somehow violated their trademark. Although the parody version bears little physical resemblance to the G-rated bear from the books and the films, and children should theoretically have no chance to confuse the psychotic, drug-dealing Pads with the real Paddington because Spitting Image is not a show for children. The High Court hasn't even ruled on this complaint, but it was still enough to get YouTube to pull down 5 episodes of Spitting Image, which, for a newly relaunched show, is a severe blow.
Ay, 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 ay.
Blaming the fun police, Prince Harry announced, "We're sad to announce the sudden death of 5 of our YouTube episodes. We were subjected to a brutal takedown, mercilessly erased from existence by Studio C anal lawyers." Spitting Image is pretty immature, but you know what you're getting when you watch it. Spitting Image is vulgar and harsh, but celebrities always recognize that being included in the show was a kind of compliment.
Si, amigo!
Being caricatured with an ugly, exaggerated puppet was proof of being on Britain's A-list. The lawsuit also seems like a misstep, which will make Canal Plus seem even more mean-spirited than the jokes on Spitting Image, casting a colder light on Paddington's warm, wholesome image. Filing a lawsuit against Pads has also just drawn more attention to Spitting Image, which ensures that more people will see this bear's drug-addled rants in the future.
I'm a huge fan of South American product.
The makers of Spitting Image told the Radio Times that they were baffled by the lawsuit, but also that their parody bear was going nowhere. Time will tell if this principled stand for free expression will help push back against the way that copyright claims can be weaponized against filmmakers, or if this is going to prove a very expensive blunder, as the small studio that makes Spitting Image certainly doesn't have the financial resources of a juggernaut like Canal Plus. Spitting Image is too little known outside Britain and too niche with its audience to rally much of an effort in its defense. For example, I don't particularly enjoy the show because I find that its humor is just a little bit too mean-spirited. But what I do care about is that this should have been a perfectly legitimate use of parody and artistic expression, and it's had the boot lowered down on that. If that could happen to them, it could happen to me or anyone else who wants to be creative in public. Digital piracy is a massive problem, and stolen content should be taken down. But it's also far too easy for corporate interests to weaponize copyright law against legitimate forms of artistic expression. It's not really in the interest of online platforms like YouTube to devote a lot of staff time and money into investigating every copyright claim to figure out if it's legit or if it's a way to bully some independent filmmakers. So I kind of understand why they take more of an attitude of, okay, there's been a copyright claim, we're just going to take it down. And then the filmmaker has to be the one who goes through all the time and effort to prove that, no, this is a legitimate use of someone else's material, that I've reinterpreted it enough that it doesn't count as a copyright violation. For now, Pads remains the co-host of the revived Spitting Image, although his red hat and blue coat are noticeably absent.
That one was tough though, hombre.
Whether all the episodes of Spitting Image will be back online anytime soon is anyone's guess, but if you're the kind of person who thinks filmmakers ought to have the right to mock any public figure, including sweet G-rated ones, then you should be rooting for the Insane Bear.